When there's fear out there, that means there's better deals. I hate to say that, but that's just the way it goes. There's a 1% of wealth in this world for a reason is because they're not doing what everybody else is doing. They're doing the opposite.
AI is not going to cut it, people. You got to get into it. You got to go get wet.
The number one most important thing we look for at Real Wealth when we choose a market, and that is a market that has
I am so excited today to interview one of my heroes in the real estate industry. She is a woman that has left an imprint on thousands and thousands of investors' lives and has done so much to help real estate and real estate investors have an experience that's positive, successful, and building wealth. She's a co-founder of Real Wealth, an education company, and a facilitator for, again, thousands of investors around the country, and also led multiple syndications under Real Wealth Development. She is the host of the podcast, The Real Wealth Show, and also does a daily broadcast on real estate news for investors. She's a big influence in the Bigger Pockets community. She's spoken on hundreds of stages. She's amazing. I'm so grateful that many of you get to hear from her today about what's going on currently in the real estate market and opportunities therein. Well, Kathy, thanks for joining us. This is a real treat. My followers need this. I need this. We've got to catch the wave and get an update on the real estate market. I think there's so much misinformation about the opportunities that still lie in real estate, and I'm not being facetious. So tell me your thoughts on that perception and what's reality.
Well, that's what we love to hear, honestly, because when there's fear out there, that means there's better deals. And I hate to say that, but that's just the way it goes. There's a 1%, there's a 10% of wealth in this world for a reason is because they're not doing what everybody else is doing. They're doing the opposite of what everybody else is doing. So if you want to really build wealth, you've just got to stop listening to other people. You got to stop listening to headlines. You got to stop living in fear and look for opportunity. So that's like my best answer for that. And when there's a lot of fear, there's even more opportunity, and that's what we're seeing in the housing market today.
Well, and I love watching your updates that you do daily, and you sometimes quote a headline that you just blow up. Do you have anything recent that comes to your mind of a headline that was just drove you crazy and you're like, no, that's not reality? Anything come to mind? I just not to put you on the spot.
The recent bill that was passed, the recent bill that basically attacked institutional firms from buying property as rental, that has been capped to if a fund already owns 350 properties, they can't buy more. Although there are some, if it's new, there's some caveats in there that people don't realize. But there's this hate for people, especially Wall Street, that comes in and buys housing, and they say, keep Wall Street out of Main Street, basically. But what's not paid attention to in that is that people also rent. What about the renters? Don't they have rights too? And if a fund, we have single family rental funds, and we provide housing, affordable housing for people. Why should we be banished by doing what is needed, which is affordable rental housing? So, the bill, it really is a political thing, in my opinion, because there were so many caveats. Like if you buy an older home, if these funds buy an older home, they and fix it, put a certain amount into it, they can still buy it, or if it's brand new from a builder. But the message was, gosh, these dirty Wall Street guys and people who own housing. When in reality, here's the reality of it. Over the past 5 years since COVID, the amount of rental housing compared to houses on the market has gone way down. If you look at the chart, it goes down. So it's not like we're flooded with rental housing. We have less of it. And I think the reason is because prices went up so much over COVID. You could sell your rental property and make way more money and cash in than just keep it as a rental. So a lot of people sold, and we have a desperate need for rental housing. So it's really the opposite is true. Like we should be trying to help the renters. They are the ones who are distressed today. And yet, there's these bans on it.
Do you think that the message was Wall Street, stay out of real estate? You have an unfair advantage with your deep pockets for the average real estate investor or home buyer. even though there's a lot of caveats and workarounds. Do you think that will help, though, the real estate market, the real estate investors like, oh, I want to get back in the action. I won't get outbid at a auction by a private equity fund or it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So in 2012, that was a big problem. I remember telling everybody I knew, like, get real estate, listen to me. But again, time of great fear. I was even on Fox News with debating Robert Schiller. Robert Schiller of the of the Case-Shiller Index, study that has all the data on housing. And I was on live TV debating him. He said it was a terrible and dangerous time to buy. And I'm telling everybody, get out there and buy. We are at the bottom. And you are going to ride this wave up. I was, of course, right. San Francisco State versus Yale. I don't know. San Francisco State won that debate. But there was fear at the time. I was telling everybody, get out there and buy. When they finally tried, they were outbid every single time by a hedge fund. I get it. That was not cool. And, California eventually, and way too late, tried to come up with, and I think this would have been a great idea. They should be able to buy what's left over, let the homeowner get a chance. But, a seller also has rights, so they should be able to sell whoever they want to for the highest price they can. So, it's always a balancing act there. But I did see a lot of friends get bid out, and that was sad to see. Now, you fast forward to today, this is what people remember. It's etched in their memories. If they had to go up against a hedge fund, not fair. But they haven't really been doing that. They've been really pivoted to build to rent communities. So a lot of the hedge funds were actually solving a problem, providing more housing, more much needed rental housing in these build to rent communities. So I think, again, it's just misinformation about what they were buying. There were certain cities where there were funds going in and still buying, I think Atlanta being one of them. But in general, no, there wasn't. There aren't auctions. This isn't a thing anymore. It was then, but banks learned we don't want to sell stuff at a discount. Banks learned that, hey, it's better if we hold it. They even started fixing their own properties and selling them at a profit. They were like, why are we giving these things away? So you're not really seeing those auctions. Of course, there are some, but people who own houses today, they're not in distress. So you're not seeing these distressed sales. There's always some. But when you look at the chart, it's at very low levels, very pre-pandemic, way below average levels right now. So, that's not going to make a big dent. I'm not going to auctions and buying. The average person isn't doing that. They have to have all cash. So it's really not going to affect the first-time buyer at all.
Such a great point for you to bring up the complexities of a bill like this. There's always the whereases and wherefores and then also the misinformation that comes out. But setting all that aside, can I still get a good deal in real estate today?
This is what's so funny is you can always get a good deal. People look back at 2021 when, you bought a house maybe a few years earlier and bam, some markets, I think you're in Arizona. There were some parts of Arizona that went up 40% in 1 year. So, you thought you were a rock star, right? If you had bought before that. But the masses, remember the 80% that's not the 20%. The 20% of wealth, the 10% of wealth, there's this massive group of people who don't have that and want to be. Those are the ones that go, whoa, prices just went up 40% in Arizona. Now I'm going to buy, and prices, you missed it. The wave already went, you're not surfing that thing. It's already gone. And that, they come in too late. They see what happened last year. They're following bad data or old data, like Robert Schiller. It's like, you're looking at old data. I'm looking at the future,
Yeah.
So
You've said this so many times that don't invest based on the headlines, which is exactly what you're talking about. You're always going to be late. You're going to miss what really happened.
yeah,
But you talked about invest based on the property or the neighborhood or the area. Don't look at what's coming through the news cycle. Get
yeah.
into the numbers of the real acquisition. Can you explain how that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, kind of to my point, what I was saying is people are super eager and courageous to invest when the timing's wrong, when the prices have already gone up. There were 90 offers on one property in 2021 when the values had peaked. And now you fast forward to today where we've only seen the housing market hasn't crashed, but it's only gone up a few percentage points every year, which is still amazing that it hasn't crashed given rates going up and the lack of affordability. But like I said earlier, people who own housing today, they're either in super low rates or they did get to ride that wave. They have a ton of equity. The trillions of dollars of equity sitting in homes today means homeowners are wealthy. So you're not gonna be able to go find somebody who's got
Desperate.
$300,000 equity and try to get a deal, right? It doesn't work that way. They're comfortable. Their payments compared to their income are the lowest in history. So the real distress today is with renters finding something affordable for them. And can you create that? And how do you find affordable housing or create it so that you could solve that problem, which is, again, renters, they can't afford to buy and they need a place to rent, but most of the things that are for rent are too expensive.
If I may interject, that's why this new law coming out of the feds, you're like, whatever, because your funds that you focused on in the last, 4 to 5 years at least, you're like, let's just build it. Let's build
Yeah.
affordable rental housing. The feds don't care. I'm not stealing a deal away from someone else. I'm
Yeah.
going out and creating new value. Where can you just tell us an example of one of the projects you're doing now, even?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been doing at Real Wealth for over 25 years because affordability isn't a new thing. It's been a problem for a while. So we've always focused our investment group, Real Wealth, helps busy professionals invest in real estate kind of passively or totally passively. One is through turnkey real estate where you still own it, you still have to get the loan, you still need to manage your property manager, but we put all that in place for you. And then the other is through funds where you just invest with us and we do all the work for you and you get your quarterly payments and so forth. But our focus has always been for 25 years affordability. We want to find an area where there's great need for housing and it's not there for people. And usually, so I'll just start with the number one most important thing we look for at Real Wealth when we choose a market, and that is a market that has job growth and that you see more and more jobs coming to that area. Because one thing that's going to kill your deal or kill real estate over the long run, and that's what we're focused on. We're not flippers. We're not looking for another job. We are long-term buy and hold investors. That we want these properties to make us wealthy in 10 years. So that when we're ready to leave our jobs, we've had all these little golden gooses all over the country building wealth for us while we're working. That's what we're looking for. So the number one most important thing is getting in the right market. Kind of like I said earlier, if I compare real estate and the way we invest to surfing, and from California, I love to surf.
Yeah.
One of the hardest parts about surfing is getting to the part of the wave that's gonna peak. If you go too inside, it'll crash on you and you'll get eaten alive by that wave. Or if you go kind of too far out, you miss it. But if you really know how to see, oh, here's where it's starting to build, I'm going to get right there and I'm just going to have this beautiful ride. So that's what we do. We're looking for where's that buildup, and it's jobs. People need jobs. And they're going to move to where they can get employed, where they can see wage growth, and where they can afford to live. Where look at San Francisco, there's job growth, but they can't afford to live. That's not going to be a place where we're going to invest. And also the landlord laws are terrible there. So Texas has been one of those areas that it's a machine that just won't stop. That the parts of Texas that we're looking at Real Wealth are just it seems like every month we get a new headline of jobs that are moving there and leaving California, and New York because of, these employers are looking for places where they're welcome, where their businesses are welcome, and where they can provide a better life for their employees. So that's our focus. Where are the jobs going? That means where are the people going? Where are they going to see some wage growth so that they can afford our rents? And then we buy little houses all around there or build them.
I love that. And Rip and Beth, they went from Montana down to Texas, and they were semi-welcome. They're building jobs on their ranch, but I'm a big fan. So, um,
I haven't watched that part yet. I haven't
okay,
seen the
all right,
Texas part.
yeah, right. I won't say anything.
Because
No
we like
spoiler alert.
Wyoming too.
Yeah, but to get very specific, so I want to summarize what you said and dive a little deeper. So, I love that you found some of the metrics or algorithm that, for lack of a better word, of where you want to be to get into that perfect spot on the wave. And
Yeah.
I've surfed a little bit in my life, and I love it. And there's a surfing concept here too that you've got to have paddle power. You got to be able
Yes.
to get into that spot on the wave because surfing is not
Yes.
for the lighthearted. You got to be in shape. And I think with real estate investing, it's that same concept. You just can't go out on a Saturday and not regularly be surfing and think you're going to catch that wave. You got to be out learning and practicing and staying involved to the point you can make a wise decision of how you turn or paddle.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage everyone down in the description, we'll have links to Kathy's regular updates and education, because at their group, who we've worked with for years, will help educate their clients. Because some may say, I've got a real estate professional status. I want to own my own property. And others are like, I don't have that status and I want a great ROI, but I'd rather be in a fund that's a little more passive. And so peeling away the onion, in Texas, you're doing both of those. Someone that may want to build and have direct ownership or be in a group.
Yeah, we have a build to rent community in San Antonio. That investment is closed to investors. But we do have a single family rental fund also in North Dallas where, again, you just have to follow the important news, not the headlines, but like where are the jobs going? And during the Biden administration, he passed the CHIPS Act. And that was a huge amount of money that went to companies that would bring chip manufacturing back to the U.S. There's been a few areas. I know there's one in Arizona and there's one just north of Dallas in a little town called Sherman, Texas. So as soon as we heard that news, I called we've got teams all around the country, brokers around the country, property managers that we've been working with like you for over, 20 years with some of these people. So I call our Dallas property manager, like, we've got to buy some property in Sherman because there's billions of dollars pouring into this area. New freeways, new schools, new everything. When there's new jobs, one job creates like five, because all the people that are moving there now, you need your hairdresser and you need your barber and you need, your groceries. So it just grows. That wave gets bigger and bigger. So we put a fund together very quickly. And this was right when the housing market froze. This is right when the Fed said they were going to start raising rates and all the headlines were saying, oh, the housing is going to crash. And I don't even listen. All I know is, oh my gosh, billions of dollars coming into this little town with not enough housing. Let's go. And we were buying because the market was frozen and everybody was scared because of what they were hearing in the headlines. We had zero competition. This is literally a month after there was only competition. You couldn't even, to me, I don't even want to be in that 2021 hot market where you can't even get inspections because there's like 100 people who want the same property. No, I want to be in the market where there's no one. So literally a month later, there's no one. We dive in, and we were buying stuff for $50,000 in this little town. It's worth $150 now, just a few years later. So there's always a good time. There's always a good time. And I think it helps at Real Wealth because I've been doing this so long, 25 years. We have, like I said, these teams across the country that we trust. We've been working with. They're our boots on the street. And they just they tell us what's really going on. Same with COVID. There were these, Black Knight came out and said there were going to be 5 million foreclosures, in 2020. And, everybody's freaking out. Again, the market just froze. Everybody's freaked out. So I started doing daily webinars because, it was we had the stay-at-home stuff, right? So I'm home, might as well do something. So I did daily webinars with a property manager each day, one day in Chicago, one day in Atlanta, one day in Dallas. Like, tell me what's going on. Is the market falling apart? And they're like, we don't know what's going on, but we've literally got lines out the door of people who want property. They need a place to live. So our boots on the street information was telling us the truth. The news, these huge organizations, Black Knight, that studies mortgages, like, oh, there's going to be this housing crash. And we're like, we don't see it. So our investors at Real Wealth dove in, bought in 2020, and of course made a ton of money.
And for my followers and listeners, my clients listening, watching this today, what I'd love you to comment on that mindset that you're just referencing. That if I'm in my local area and I'm seeing not a lot of opportunity, and if I buy a home that it's really difficult to flip it, and I can't cash flow it because it's too expensive. That may be your little circle of life right there.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that 2 states away, 5 states away, there's an opportunity. And I think people get really fearful. Well, if I can't go drive by that every day,
Yeah.
it's a bad, it's bad investor mindset. And I try to unwind that all the time and let people know, the smart people learn how to manage their property manager, not manage a property. And you just talked about calling your property managers that are boots on ground. Could you talk to that a little bit about that shift of not worrying about it being around the corner and that it's okay if it's a little further away?
Yeah, I mean, that is so old school. That was the mentality 25 years ago, when you didn't have Google Maps, I guess, you didn't have the internet. I'm sure
Yeah.
it was probably a lot scarier then. But we do help people overcome that fear by doing property tours. Like, I want you to come out and see it. It's foreign. Of course, it's scary. We're always afraid of things we don't know or understand. But when you go and see it and learn it and understand it, it's not scary anymore. So we do these tours. We show people, it's not that different. And the fact of the matter is, let me ask you, like, Mark, could I become an attorney tomorrow? Like, can I? I want to. I would like
Yeah.
to start doing legal work for people tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
gonna like, no, absolutely not. So then why is it accountant or a contractor, or like, well, a contractor maybe they would understand, but somebody who runs their business, somebody who is a CPA, why do you think you can just go out and do real estate tomorrow? Like, I can't go out and be a CPA tomorrow. So you've got to get the right people in place. And even if you bought the house next door, but you're a busy CPA, you're going to screw up that property because you don't know what you're doing.
yeah, but
You
I watch HGTV and I stay at a Holiday Inn on a regular basis. So
Like, there's, what is it, the 10,000 hour rule, until you're an expert. So until you're an expert, rely on experts, because you're going to mess it up. And that is the biggest mistake people make, is I need it to be close. I need to see it. Well, you're going to mess it up. Get out of it. Get professionals who understand this stuff, especially if you're investing in real estate and don't understand landlord laws or construction. You are going to create yourself a nightmare. There's two businesses. There's a lot of businesses with real estate, but the two I want to explain is, there's the active business and there's the passive. Of course, you probably talk about this all the time. And people just get this confused all the time because they watch HGTV. They're like, I want to flip a house and make all this money. Now you've become active. That's a business. You already have a business. You're already busy. You have a job. Unless you don't have a job, then sure, go get your 10,000 hours learning how to be a flipper. But you're going to make mistakes along the way and probably lose money because you're not an expert yet. But then there's the passive, which means you're investing. And when you invest, you need to invest in somebody who knows what they're doing, right? And has the experience, has the 10,000 hours. So that's what we find with property managers. We're not going to find a property manager that just put up their flag overnight and, doesn't know anything about real estate. These are people who've been doing this for years. They know the laws. They've got the list of, they've got their marketing out there. They're able to attract the right people. They know how to vet. Yeah, try putting your first tenant in by yourself and see what happens. It's
yeah.
really
Oh
hard.
my
You
gosh.
want an expert doing that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And again, we got to do a whole show just on surfing, because again, the analogies are incredible for those that have gone out and wave and gotten pummeled.
Yeah.
If you really want to get good at surfing, you go hang out with surfers. You go catch the little waves and surf with others that have a lot of hours doing it. They'll block for you, give you a push, whatever. And maybe you won't catch a big wave initially, but you'll work up to that. And catching little waves is still fun. And it's like the real estate. You don't have to hit a home run every time you do a real estate deal. Just catch a little wave, catch a little wave. As you get better and better and surf and work with others that know what they're doing, when that big wave comes along, maybe you'll be in the right spot. And
I love that you said that, because my daughter Krista, who you know very well,
yeah,
um, Yeah, she always wanted to look cool when she was at San Diego State. She got a shortboard. And, she could never get up on it because it's a shortboard and you got to work your way up to that. But, so she just sit out there on the board and look cute. And I guess that was enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But literally on Monday, I'm like, girl, we're going out. And I hired a coach and we went out. He brought a proper board for her. She's very tall. She shouldn't be on a shortboard. And she caught so many waves and they were big waves. So many, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. So yeah, having that expert there beside you to give you the right instruction, make sure you're, she was like, Mom, all this time I didn't know you're supposed to pop up right at the, all the, like, yes, all that time you've been wasting doing it wrong.
Then someday you could work up to be Kathy Fettke, who's like Soul Surfer. She goes out there and just touches the water, and she's like, okay, I know where the wave's coming. See, and that's like real estate. Kathy's like, I know where it's coming. And see,
because I go to one break and I know the break. And I'm the only lady, I'm the only female, it's all these dudes, and I know I could surf right around them because I know the break. And that also,
yeah,
it's a parallel in real estate. Like don't, even if you've learned a certain kind of real estate, you try a different kind, you might fail because, you don't know it as well. So, and that's what I was saying about the passive versus active. People think, I'm going to go flip a house. That is active. You're doing stuff. You're creating active income versus buying a rental. That's what we focus on as the long-term wealth. Buy a rental, let somebody else pay off your debt for you. The government gives you tax benefits for providing this housing. And and then the market, if you're in the right market, you'll see appreciation too. And trust me, in 10 years, if you buy a good quality property in a good area that's growing, you're going to make money. You're going to make a lot of money.
You will outperform Wall Street 2 to 3x every time. And it's proven, instead of trying to go hit a home run and getting pummeled and just getting chewed up and getting stuck inside those waves. And man, this is like a surf session. I mean, like this is surfing instruction 101. No, this is so good. Well, I love that your surf break is Texas. You know Texas backwards and forwards. You can scoot around there really quickly, catch the right little waves here and there. There's so many parallels. This is neat. Well, Kathy, I said I'd have some of your information in the description, but do you want to mention what you would recommend someone new to real wealth, where they should start to tap into some of your resources?
Yeah, education is everything, and I know people are so busy. They're so busy. It's like hard to even read a book these days. But if you have time, just read I actually have had teenagers say they've read my book in an afternoon. It's sit by, just take a few moments, maybe read one chapter a day of Retire Rich with Rentals. That will give you a lot of information.
And AI is not going to cut it, people. You can't get a one-page summary and think you're going to absorb it. You got to get into it. You got to go get wet. You got to go hit the waves. You got to get out there with your board. You got to read the book and then pay attention to your updates. I think are just great too, teaching people what to see.
Yeah, we do webinars every Thursday. We highlight different markets. You'll start to get to know these different markets. We'll show you what to look for in a property, and especially most important, understanding what is your goal before you even read any books. Talk to Mark. Like, what is your goal? What are you trying to create? Because people get that wrong all the time. And then it's kind of like Rich has a great part in his book. We wrote a book together called Scaling Smart. And he talks about this time when he was little and his brother would always swim out to this island. And he was like, I'm going to do it. I'm big enough. And so he gets to the water and he just starts swimming, but he never looks up. And he's like, ends up like zigzagging all around, never makes it to the island. So often that's what we do. We're just like, oh, so-and-so just made this money here. I'm going to do that. Oh, so-and-so, I'm going to do that. Oh, like, where are you going? What are you trying to do? For me, it's always been clear. Like, I want to retire on this day, and retire meaning I want to be financially free. I'm never going to retire. I love what I do, but to have enough income to cover my expenses so I don't have to work. I'm going to do that on this day. And so now I got to work backwards. What do I need to do to get there? So for me, it was always a long-term plan. For other people, it's like, hey, I don't have a job. I need a job. So I'm going to go flip houses. Great. You could make your fast money that way. You could make the money you live on that way. But then you still need to take, all the flippers I talk to tell me, gosh darn it, why didn't I follow Kathy's plan, the Real Wealth plan, and take a portion of that, of my earnings from flipping houses, and invest long-term, buy and hold? Because they sell these houses, they look at us, and I didn't fix anything, and I made more money.
Yeah, no.
I just sat on it.
Yes, totally. And having that plan in advance of where you're gonna go, where you're gonna paddle to. And I think it's really a combination as we're doing, because you have a trifecta. I know you do, and I love that. And I love your real wealth coaches. I've talked to them before that are like, okay, let's dial in on your real estate goals inside of your overall trifecta of income and assets and legacy. And so I would encourage everyone there, you can have an initial discovery call with one of your coaches to create that real estate plan. And I think that's a really smart thing to do too. So,
And that's free to do. And joining Real Wealth is free. There's no catch. We are a brokerage. We receive referral fees from our from the broker. If you buy a property in Dallas, we get a part of their broker fee. So there's no fee. We just get paid on the back end to the broker, a fee that you'd be paying anyway. So yeah, realwealth.com, and you can speak with one of our investment counselors. They all are very, very experienced investors. These aren't just kids we pulled off the street. They know what they're doing.
they do. It's so good. Well, Kathy, thanks for spending time with me today. I appreciate it. And good luck out on the waves and on the real estate markets that you're surfing. So I just think you're doing such a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks everybody for joining me for another episode of the Main Street Business Podcast. Wow, tons of great information. I encourage you to take action. Check out the description below. More education and learning from real life people and examples. It's going to add layers and layers upon any AI search you do. So please give Kathy and Real Wealth a look and get over there and check it out. And if you like the show, again, give us a 2-star, 5-star, 2 thumbs up, not 2-star, 5-star, 2 thumbs up, 10-star, whatever. And we'll see you next time on another episode of the Main Street Business Podcast. Thanks.